The desert planet of Vera, 9 burned under twin suns, the horizon a blur of heat waves and jagged ruins. Smoke rose from scattered settlements where the remnants of the Concord Medical Corps had set up field clinics to treat the wounded from the ongoing Score invasion. Life here was fragile, but the medics moved tirelessly, patching up civilians and soldiers alike, knowing that any delay could mean death. Lieutenant Cale Roran surveyed the makeshift camp from the ridge above, the visor of his combat helmet reflecting the shimmering heat. He had seen war at its worst, bodies strewn across moonscapes, cities razed for sport, and the horrors of weaponized nanites. But nothing had prepared him for the brutality of the Score. They had a single principle in battle: no mercy, no hesitation. And today, the medics were their target. The beginning, the first strike. Cale's calm crackled. "Lieutenant, we have movement on the South Ridge. Multiple hostiles closing on the medics. They're not holding back." Cale's jaw tightened. The medics were unarmed, relying on shields and hoverbeds to move the injured. The idea of Score raiders targeting them deliberately was unforgivable. He activated his thrusters, propelling his armor suit down the slope at terrifying speed. The wind tore at his cape, sand biting his exposed skin beneath the reinforced plating. Below, he could see the flash of plasma rounds ricocheting off medical pods, screams mingling with alarms. The medics were fast, moving patients to safer positions, but there were too few of them. Too slow. "Hold!" Cale shouted into the chaos. "Cover the wounded. I've got this." He charged into the fray. Plasma bolts screamed past his helmet as he unleashed a salvo from his railgun. The first Score raider fell, convulsing as nanite-infused rounds neutralized their exosuit. But there were dozens. Cale realized immediately that brute force wouldn't be enough. Strategy and precision had to guide every shot. The middle, swift retribution. Cale moved with deadly efficiency. Each step calculated, each target chosen. He kicked over a medical cart to create cover, leapt over a fallen Score warrior, and fired in quick succession. The medics watched in awe, realizing that this human soldier moved with a precision that bordered on the supernatural. "We can't hold them," cried one medic. "There are too many." Cale's eyes scanned the battlefield. There was an opening, a narrow canyon where the attackers had to funnel through. He gestured to 2 medics, ordering them to evacuate the wounded down the canyon while he set up an ambush. "I'll slow them," he said. "Get everyone out." The Score, realizing they were being channeled, surged forward. Cale activated his gravity mines, sending them tumbling in the narrow pass. His railgun hummed, sending bolts with surgical precision. For every inch they advanced, Cale exacted a toll. Raider after raider fell. The medics reached relative safety, only to look back and see Cale standing alone, his armor scorched and dented, surrounded by the wreckage of fallen enemies. He did not retreat. He could not retreat. Every second he stayed was a second the medics survived. The turning point. Death arrives. Just when it seemed the tide might turn in Cale's favor, the Score brought out their heavy units, tall, insectoid exosuits bristling with weapons. Their leader, a monstrous being called Zarkon, emerged, plasma glaive slicing the air, its edge glowing red with lethal energy. Cale knew this was no ordinary fight. He had to act decisively. Reaching into his pack, he activated a quantum disruption grenade, a device that could dismantle the molecular structure of advanced exosuits. He hurled it into the center of the Score ranks. The explosion was silent, almost invisible, but the effect was immediate. The heavy units convulsed, their armor dissolving in strange iridescent flashes. Zarkon roared, staggering as Cale pressed the advantage, moving like lightning between the smaller raiders, dispatching them with railgun shots to vital circuits. The score tried to retreat, but Kale had anticipated this. Automated turrets, remotely activated, opened fire on the fleeing raiders. Within minutes, what had seemed like an unstoppable horde was reduced to scattered survivors fleeing into the desert. Kale lowered his weapon, breathing heavily, the weight of the battle pressing down on him. Around him, the medics and survivors looked on, disbelief and relief mingling on their faces. "They attacked our medics," he said quietly, almost to himself, so death came fast. The aftermath, the cost of survival. The medics quickly assessed the wounded, stabilizing them and preparing transport. Kale, bloodied and bruised but alive, walked among them, helping carry stretchers and directing triage efforts. "Lieutenant," said Dr. Lina, the senior medic, I don't know how to thank you. You saved everyone here." Kale shook his head. "You're the ones who risk lives every day to save the injured. I just made sure the score didn't get the chance." The survivors began to move toward the evacuation ships, and Kale stayed behind to ensure the perimeter was secure. The desert sun beat down on the wreckage, reflecting off twisted metal and blackened armor, painting the battlefield with harsh light. He thought of the score. They were relentless, cruel, and efficient killers. But they had made a critical mistake, underestimating the human instinct to protect the vulnerable. The ending, beyond the battle. Days later, the Concord Council debriefed Kale. The reports emphasized the human's tactical genius, his precise execution, and his ability to protect lives without unnecessary destruction. Medics who had witnessed the battle spoke of him as more than a soldier. They called him a guardian. Kale remained quiet during the accolades, thinking instead of the medics who had fought to save civilians, of the innocent caught in the crossfire, of the people he had protected. "Death came fast," he murmured during a private moment, "because mercy demanded speed." In the weeks that followed, the tale of the battle spread across frontier worlds. The phrase "they struck our medics first" became a rallying cry, reminding soldiers and civilians alike that the protection of the defenseless was paramount, and that swift retribution was sometimes the only form of justice. Kale trained new recruits, sharing the lesson he had learned at Vera 9. Courage, precision, and restraint could save lives in ways brute force alone could not. The medics, once seen as fragile and unarmed, were now honored as heroes whose safety commanded the fiercest protection. And somewhere in the desert ruins of Kareth Station, the echo of plasma fire and the memory of those lost remained, a solemn reminder that in war, the cost of mercy was swift, and the price of protecting the innocent was immeasurable.